I'll definitely take that, and I do definitely want to talk about some more about the characters and the designs. Guess do okay. Now we're good, I believe. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so welcome to the big show, everybody. I'm your host with the ghost. They call me Doctor Funk. We're gonna start this over and do some quick intros. I'm here with the team of the Nemots, as you already heard, Derek and Jasper. So, guys, if we could take it one more time, let's let's kick it off again with some intros.
Do some intros. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm Derek Laporte. I'm the creative director, game designer of the Nemots TCG, and basically want to make a fun and engaging game with a lot of strategy and player choice, which is kind of absent right now on blockchain for the most part. And that's what I want to do. Yeah.
And hello, I'm Jasper van Ravenswaay. I'm the CEO. Obviously, I share Derek values. I think right now most of the games out there are not fun right now. But what's for me really important is to accelerate the adaptation of blockchain gaming, and therefore I want to make sure we decrease every entry barrier. Because I feel blockchain gaming can shift the balance more towards the player, where they have true ownership over their assets. And in order to just share it with everyone, it should be easily accessible. And that is one of the core values that I believe in.
That's great, guys. And people are telling me my audio is too low, so I'm just going to do a quick check here again. So, when you tell us, so do you have game design background? I mean, what is started the journey between I want to build a standard Web 2 game and where you decided like, hey, this is the path forward?
Right. So I started kind of way back in, if you remember MUDs, back
Yeah.
in the day, I was a level designer on a Fallout MUD, which was in 2000, or sorry, not even 2000, that was the 90s. It was 97 it came out, something like that. I was pretty young. But I started out kind of back then, and it had always game design had always been kind of something I was interested in, and I was interested in telling stories and narrative, and I followed the narrative path for quite a while. I did some film stuff, wrote and directed a movie, and then basically around probably like early to mid 2010 area, those areas, the tins, I guess we call them.
Yeah.
I really decided to like solo dev and start going directly into it and learning to code and do everything myself. And it's kind of strategy, kind of my thing that I like to say is do all things, right? And then of course you find that in the process of doing all things that you do some things better than others, and
Right.
then of course as long as you are honest with yourself, and you say like, okay, I need to find people who can do those particular things good too for me, then the project's going to be good. But basically that's how I initially got into kind of game design. But specifically Web3, I guess it was June of last year, right, Jasper? Sometime around then, I was making basically going to do a game for just for holders of a token, and then it's kind of expanded, and that's kind of what this became, because obviously Axie around that time was booming, and so everybody started realizing like play to earn games and all that kind of stuff was like where it's at and kind of the wave of the future,
Right.
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just gonna pass it on to you actually.
Oh no, it is. I'm not a game designer at all. I think the only thing that I've designed that is anything game related is either a mod or a level in Super Mario Maker.
Yeah.
But I come from a international business and management background. I'm just here to make sure I believe in Derek's vision. So I'm just here. I don't want to say I'm an employee of Derek, because I'm going to the convention to build out partnerships, but I want to make it for Derek as easy as possible to put his at least his game vision out there with the limited capabilities that we currently have. I think we can all experience it. It's the whole bear market thing. And for me, it's just important to have a good and fun game out there. And then I can slap more of my vision onto it because I'm a gamer myself. Mm-hmm. I hate buying FIFA every year. I hate buying those cards every year, spending some euros on it just to get your team starting again. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's really important to put that aspect of true ownership behind it. And if we can create a fun game such as the Nemots, I'm not a TCG player at first. I'm slowly starting to get into it because it's just fun. It doesn't take a lot of time and it's appealing.
Right. So that was going to be my next question. So what led you? So you went from MUDs, and then what led you down the path to creating a TCG battler?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I kind of was always into like Magic back in the day, and we had there was like a home rule that we had, which was we tend to like really push games. Like growing up, I was always about like doing it in the most intense way possible. And so one of the things that we did was we would actually like whoever won got to pick a card from the other person's deck and tear it up, and then they could never use it again.
Ouch.
Even if they got another version of it, we'd write it down and you could just never use it again. So and it was just to elevate that experience of like trying to win, right? That incentive, the risk and reward kind of thing. Obviously, like, obviously the TCG we're doing is not going to be that intense.
Yeah, those are like Thunderdome rules.
Right. Thunderdome or what is it, Nuzlocke or something? There's a version of Pokemon that is that where it's you have to like you only get one try or something at it catching a Pokemon.
It's Nuzlocke. It's where you can get only one Pokemon from each area, and then if it dies, you have to box it and you can never use it again.
Right. Super intense kind of like thing that like basically it's players coming up with kind of their own rule set to intensify the gaming experience, But basically I've always thought of TCGs since then. I always played like, when Hearthstone came out, played Hearthstone, Shadowverse, pretty much all of them I've played. And they naturally lend themselves really well to like blockchain, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it allows us to, we can actually bring qualities of the physical game back onto the chain, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that we're kind of doing different that I haven't seen other games do. And that is the fact that a card can actually take condition rating damage as it's played, and then you have to like repair it. Which was something, like something we know, like back when we were playing with those cards, if you played with them, they've been played with, so they would lose.
Your value would go down. Your resale. Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So do you think that, so when I was trying to explain to my wife, initially about NFTs and rarities and things like that, one of the examples that I used was to take her, out to Walmart and look at all the decks and the starter packs and things like that. And even my kid, she likes to get these mystery eggs, and you're hoping for like the one rare piece, right? And that's kind of the way I equated it. What do you think that the disconnect is with when you get pushback from the mainstream gaming community, where we've spent the last 20 years through like special variant comic book covers or sports card trading or anything like that? We've kind of built in this rarity system to being a collector and in entertainment hobbies. What do you think that the big hurdle is when you encounter the pushback, like why we can't seem to get mainstream gamers like onto this concept?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I do see, like, I watch some videos of like there's a lot of people who FUD NFTs specifically, and they're gamers who kind of like talk about these things. And one of the big things, right, is they're against digital scarcity. Mm-hmm. I've heard of that a lot, right? But But in every game that you play, there's digital scarcity. So that one doesn't really check out to me, because obviously that's the only way that a economy essentially works, right? Is if there's a scarcity in it. I do think it is. I think that in a lot of cases, what has happened is there's been, it's kind of that bias of like, if you're always looking for something negative, you're going to find it kind of thing.
Right.
And then that has been put in front of them so much that they're coming in with like an automatic kind of like, I'm not sure about this kind of thing. And I wonder too if they don't realize I think they don't realize the potential of it. And I think that what it's probably going to take, right, is it's going to take a game that is a completely unique experience on the blockchain that draws them into that. And then we kind of like, I kind of like a Trojan horse, but like a fun house. We put a fun house in their backyard and then invite them to it, kind of thing. We got to Trojan horse our way into that kind of behavior. But I think that's the only way. It's not going to be like, the blockchain version of Hearthstone. Right. That's, like they're just going to play Hearthstone, right? In that event. They're not going to see the value of it until there's a game that really pulls them to it, and then they say, wow, this is incredible, and then that opens the doors, so to speak.
Right. No, I totally agree with Derek's vision, and that's also something I've been telling everyone, like right now the digital scarcity is already out there. It's just that all the power is now with the game creators. You're not owning them, you're renting actually your skins. The initial Halloween skin in Fortnite, I think at one point they sold on eBay for $10,000 or more. If Riot decides and they pick up on it and they decide to ban your account, it's gone. I think players right now, they don't realize the potential, also because there's a lot of thought coming from the mainstream game creators, and it just takes one game that gets some traction behind it, that is easy to play, that is not really different than the traditional Web 2 game, to open their eyes and see all the possibilities that blockchain offers.
Right, exactly. I think it's, the narrative as we've seen has changed so much from being kind of Ponzi wrapped or games, that are wrapped around kind of a Ponzified or gamified DeFi thing. Look, I mean, it's a learning process, right? But the narrative definitely is making a fun game first now that's appealing. And I think that, it's like a when you're ready. Oh yeah, by the way, there's this extra layer. Did you know these assets are worth something? Let's talk about, rarities and translating and things like that. I think that trading card games you're right, are really one of the best entry points in that, because scarcity in these type of games and trading and swapping and acquiring, that's just something that's deeply built in to this scene already. So let's talk a little bit more about the Nemots, and I'm interested in some of your creative design. Also, talk a little bit about some of the core game mechanics, and possibly just the insane amount of variations that you have going on once this thing goes live. So what's the process? Is this going to be something that I can come in and play for free? Will I have to purchase a starter pack, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we will have starter decks that can be purchased, and then we will have also a season pass, which will enable kind of the play to earn aspects of it, the more the token payout kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But we will have like a free to play version where you can keep playing and then eventually like unlock kind of a starter deck as you go through that process. So it incentivizes, again, like people to come in and try it, see if they like it, and if they like it, then stick with it. But yeah, and as far as like that goes, basically there will be drops that happen, which will, be orbs that then can be minted into new creatures, which are then the cards, and then you level those up kind of as you go. you can level them up, but then of course they can take condition rating damage, and so you're kind of like risking and rewarding kind of the whole way. But yeah, that's kind of the start is, ideally, there will be a free deck for people to play with if they don't get a starter deck, but eventually your goal is to kind of like start to get those cards leveled up and get a little better and stuff as you go.
Right. Just like in Hearthstone or any other game where you get like Larry the floor sweeping gnome, but you could play with him, but he's not gonna do you much good when push comes to shove and you gotta bust out the big guns, right?
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So let's how many variations of when you factor in art, when you factor in skills and rarities, how many variations are we talking about?
Okay, so with skills and rarities, so we're about at 1.8 million. That's once we have all of the sets of things. So we're going to start at least initially with just the item and animal combinations, and then we're gonna scale up to hats and headwear. And then eyeglasses and different eyes and stuff. And the idea is to have all of these things have a mechanic feature too. So like, for instance, like we have like a propeller cap. If it has the propeller cap, then it's going to have the flying aerial ability, right? And so kind of like to bring in that art to like the logic as far as like the mechanic of it goes and stuff. But yeah, it'll be eventually 1.8 million possibilities, which happens when you got like 4 different sets that you're multiplying across.
Right.
So
that's pretty crazy. Only season 1.
That's just season 1 too. Yeah.
So there's no chance of running out of these potentially quote unquote infinite combinations and things like that.
That's not even considering leveling either, right? Like that's just considering before you level it. So like once those levels happen, then it's even going to be more variable, right? So
right. Is there going to be any kind of nesting or forging of characters, any kind of breeding, or is that all taken care of through the leveling of the character?
It's all through like kind of the card creation moment, right? Just that minting of that orb, and then it's randomized. There will be like like each item has a particular mechanic, each animal has a particular mechanic. So when you get the bat aid, right, which is the adhesive bandage, and then the bat, then it's going to have those 2 abilities put together, right? So that's kind of.
Let's talk a little more about character design. So you've got some wacky combinations there. You've got Swiss Army Goat. My favorite personally is Duck Ox, which for those who maybe haven't seen the art, it's a duck with a boombox body, and that's my best buddy. I love that one. But where did the inspiration come for these these mix-ups and even the setting with the mall setting? And can you tell us a little bit about the lore of the game?
Yeah, great question. So the idea kind of came out initially from way back, right? Where I was thinking about, initially it was going to be just a set of like cats or something, like basically a bunch of different types of cats. And then I said, well, and then there was like a cat with like a taco cat. And I was like, it should be like item and animal, and then just like across the board. So like a taco cat, it's a combination of taco and a cat, right? So I was like, okay, well, what about burger dog, and so on and so forth. And so then it just became like listing these items. And then if you sit down to start listing like 50 items, right, then you realize like, wow, that's actually a lot of things to list.
Right.
Like suddenly your brain freezes up. And so then I kind of thought like, well, what would be really interesting is some of those like nostalgic items, right, from kind of when I grew up and stuff. So like, what if it was 80s items, like And so then from that, it kind of all came about, like thinking like, hey, it's in the mall. Like there's a whole story as to the reason why these things were combined. Started writing the story, kind of coming up with all that kind of stuff. And it's grown from there too, because initially I had like an overall kind of idea of the story, but I didn't have any kind of like human characters in it necessarily. And then kind of I've realized the necessity of having that and having like a avatar, so to speak, for us to like, connect with and choose between and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it basically the storyline for those who don't know is that there's basically this green alien energy that just goes through this mall and combines all these items and animals together, and it's into cards. And then there's a ragtag group of like mall rats who happen to be there at that moment, who then can use these crystals in order to kind of battle against each other inside this environment.
Awesome. Thankfully, there's that ragtag crew. You always got to have those guys around, right? You
got to have ragtag, and it has two things, right? You got ragtag and mall rat. Like I like.
Yeah.
Those play well together. You know?
Definitely. So Jasper, you guys have announced a couple of great partnerships here lately. So I want to kind of shift some of the conversation to tell us some of your recent announcements and some of your quest as far as some of the great partners that you've been able to team up with.
Yeah. So like I said from the start, for us, it's really important to give the user the best experience. So we looked at partners that could benefit it. So one of the partners that we teamed up with is Niftify. They're a Slovenian company. They do NFT marketplaces, but for me, the most important part that they did is they do custodial wallets. They're regulated already within within the EU and the US. It's basically that users can just log in with their email, password, and two-factor authenticator. Basically what they're doing in their normal games. And then they have full access to their assets. They can trade on our marketplace. They can sell their items. They can swap their tokens. And by that, it's just diminishing the entry barrier, because I feel a lot of gamers right now are still scared by installing Ecto Wallet or MetaMask or whatever wallet you have to use. I know it from myself. The first time I had to bridge from Ethereum to Binance, I was almost pooping myself, because it took it took like 30, 45 minutes, and I'm like, why is it taking so long?
I think we've all been there.
Yeah. So one of the things that for me is really important is to slowly get users involved into the game, and Niftify allows that. And then once they feel more comfortable with wallets, they can choose to move it outside their custodial wallet into their own. Mm-hmm. So we're not obliging you to use that, because like I said, we want to give the power to the player. Mm-hmm. Another partner that we're going to use is Rubik, their cross-chain bridge, so that you can, whatever chain you're on, you can cash it out to. Like if you're a Solana fanboy, you can use Solana. If you're Phantasma, obviously, you can do it for Sol. If it just makes it a lot easier. Another partner that I haven't announced is actually OnRamper. They're going to offer us a widget where players can easily buy their starter decks, buy their tokens in game. For me, it's really important to just make it easy and fun, and not make it difficult for the user. Having a fun experience, like Derek said, we need that fun experience to transition people from Web 2 into Web 3 gaming. And I believe if it's just easy, it gets a lot more tractions easily. Obviously, we have Phantasma as well. I don't want to. For me, the smart NFT knowledge is the future. having everything decentralized also aligns with our vision of giving obviously the power to the player. All those dynamic NFTs are cool for now, but it's not the future. Having all the data stored centralized is not what we envision. So having that smart NFT knowledge is a key opponent, especially for Derek, because it allows him to do funky stuff like the card condition rating, the leveling up. It is all needed, in my opinion, to create that experience that gamers want.
Yeah, 25 traits is a lot to track, and it'll be great to like have it be specifically attached right to the NFT. That's going to be great. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so awesome that you're really utilizing the smart NFT power, because clearly we all know that it is the best NFT technology that's out there, right? It's the vision. And I'm saying this as a Phantasma fanboy myself. I read the documents and I was like, holy crap, what do these guys got going on? And I'm sure that's kind of the same thing you did. So we were talking about, just pure function. And I think the ability to be truly creative when you're programming something for the blockchain, the depth and really it's just the sky's the limit as far as imagination of what you can really do. And I don't think anyone's really tapped that potential. So going back to like having the custodial wallets and doing and lowering that bridge, do you think that, I mean, for right now, is that kind of hybrid model is that the path forward, where you give players the option to, okay, next, like now I'm ready to, are you able to take your custodial wallet and then soon link it to like your actual private key held wallet at some point through that service? Or is there going to be any kind of education that goes along with helping people kind of bridge that gap when you deploy and go to live state?
Yeah, no, of course, we will have some educational content up later over time. It is just that right now there's not enough education out there. So by offering this, it just makes it easier. And then people automatically, I think once they realize when everything is decentralized, they actually hold the keys and the power. Then hopefully by that we will make them interested in Web3 in general. It's like a smooth transition without you noticing that you're getting into Web3. That is, I think, really important.
Right, I agree. You see with a lot of streamers and gamers and things like that, and you'll see they've got the wall of video games behind them, that they've spent all their time and hard-earned money and things like that. And I think that when you suddenly go to them and say, you've got to do it this way now, you've got to be decentralized, and you've got to do that. And anytime that you shove something down someone's throat and tell them that they've been spending all their money but doing it the wrong way for so many years, nobody reacts really well to that, So
no, that is just human psychology.
Yeah.
If you tell someone to do it when they're not used to it, they automatically say, "Oh no, that's not for me."
Yeah,
that's why by just having that custodial wallet, they don't even realize it until actually the money hits in their bank account, and then they're like, "Oh wow, this is perfect." I played a lot of Preston Tale. It's an old MMORPG. I played it when I was like 10 till 16. Spent hours and hours on it, and now my account is gathering dust there. If I knew there was something like blockchain gaming back then, it would allow me to sell my assets and I can move on to a different game. People's what's it called? People's taste shift. At one time, you really, at least for me, sometimes you have those avid shooter players, FPS players that only play FPS. But I tend to shift from FIFA to Formula One to Pokemon right now. And by blockchain gaming, also your switching costs are a lot lower. If you're done with your FIFA, you can sell your players and then you can buy Pokemon for it. It just feels that the untapped potential of blockchain gaming has not been recognized by the mainstream. Right. And we're hoping with the Nemots, by giving that fun game, by actually them not realizing it's actually Web3 until they sell their assets, and then they're like, oh wow, this is perfect.
Right. Okay, everybody. I am not entirely sure what just happened, but I am going to try and get these guys back on the call. Oh, hello again.
He's back.
I don't know what just happened. I'm going to blame it on some evil, dastardly mall alien. Oh, crap. Hello again. I don't know what happened. I'm going to blame it on the same green energy that combined all your creatures.
Probably.
Yeah. I honestly not sure what went down there. I can't remember what we were talking about. I'm sure it was pretty cool. I think it was about lowering the barrier, right?
Right.
Yeah. I gave him my whole vision about transitioning slowly from Web 2 into Web 3 without forcing them.
Yeah, and I that's the best way forward, truly. So I did have some other questions in mind. I just went blank for a moment during that kerfuffle.
Well, if you're blank, we can showcase some latest gameplay if you want.
Yes, let's take a look at the game.
All right. See, can I share screen on this? Or
yes. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. I've got a special overlay, I think. This should work. Oops,
it's
there we go. This might help.
You got an enable. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Let's see.
All participants.
It gives you some time to get the questions back.
I think it should be good.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Okay, give me 1 sec, and I will pull up.
Okay, so just to explain, so I guess we lost the audio on the screen share, but just kind of go over some of those mechanics again, and if you could really fast.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, this is my first stream. I'm so sorry. Don't let me push the buttons.
Yeah. So basically, like a TCG, you're trying to attack each other, and you're trying to get the crystal down to your opponent down to 0. There's blocker abilities. There's all the keyword kind of abilities like the aerial, where only aerial can attack aerial, things like that. One of the things that I'm really focusing on with this that's a little unique in the space of TCGs, at least, is all about resources, right? Time, the timer on that, I don't know if anybody noticed, but the timer, you have like a total time, kind of like you do in chess, where it ticks down only when you are the active player, and then your opponents ticks down when they're the active player. And so you have like 5 minutes of given time total for the whole game. That will also be a resource in which certain cards will affect that time. So you can actually increase time pressure on an opponent throughout a game and things like that. So like basically like just getting down to like always like having like resources and the management of resources, right? That's kind of a big thing. There's you have abilities that you can reuse. There's a bar across the bottom for all of the Nemots. As that bar fills up, once it fills up, then that ability can be reused. And so there's incentive to defend Nemots in certain cases. Again, this also attracts away from just always attacking the player crystal, right? Like maybe you want to defeat that Nemot before it gets a full bar, because if it does, you can see like what the ability is when you hover over it. But maybe it's a OP ability, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose if I let him get up there. Yeah.
So we've got buffs. We've got some extra layers of strategy with defeating the Nemots, and things like that. That sounds really cool. Let's take a moment here I'm going to scan the chat a little bit and see if we have any questions for the team. Again, will there be with the avatars? Will there be any sort of personalization available for the avatars?
That's a good question. So there's going to kind of be like like later on we're going to probably have like different assets that can kind of go with them, like cosmetics, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there will be. Primarily that'll be kind of like introduced probably further into season 1 and stuff like that, because initially going to get kind of all of them out there and then kind of establish their storyline so that people can kind of attract themselves to which one they kind of like identify the most with, right? Based upon the story and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's cool.
But that's a great question.
I have a question about your story and your lore. Is there any sort of like community input that you've taken as far as this, or is there any chance for like for the community to help write backstories for some of these characters?
Yeah, so we have, so there has been, like, for instance, with some of the Nemots, right, taking in like some of the item ideas, even like, right, we're like kind of community sourced, but yeah, like for sure, like there's always kind of a conversation ongoing about like, hey, we should do this, hey, we should do that. Even the fact of having like avatars or characters, right, to represent our avatars or whatever, that initially came about due to a community kind of discussion too, like talking with the community.
So also, Derek, what we can't forget, since we're getting closer to launch, at one point, probably in the next 2 weeks, we want to ask the community about pricing of certain items. We want to have their input, like what would you pay for a repair card? What would you pay for a deck of cards? Like I said, throughout the entire thing, and I feel like a broken record, we want to put the power to the player. So we actually want to ask our community, Phantasma's community, to give some input on pricing on items, because we want to make it a fun game. We don't want to make it a pay-to-win game. We want to make it really like a play and earn thing, even like a play and own thing, since we're so focusing on ownership of assets. So if everyone in your community could follow, especially our Twitter, at one point we are going to ask them, we're going to do polls about even like the packages that we want to sell, like a package of tokens, repair cards, Nemots. What would you pay for it? What would you want to see in a package? Just give the complete, well, not the complete, but like almost everything to the player to decide.
Right, that's awesome. It's really admirable that you think of the community in that way, and especially for their input on, that's one of the biggest turnoff for a lot of games out there. Even for myself, is I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars to try something out. So I think that getting that input on what's reasonable is really important.
Right. I mean, I think too, one of those big things, right, is basically there's in games as a service, right, there's only two types of ways to go as games as a service. You either make a mass market game, right, which appeals to pretty much everyone, and then you try and get to a certain amount of the average revenue per user, or you make a niche game that automatically has a average revenue per user because it's already like for people who are kind of like in their niche that they're engaged with, and then you try and reach mass market with it. And I think that the second one of those is the one that's going to work best in like blockchain games, is making these kind of niche games that can really like get a community behind, and then can mass market from there.
Awesome. Let me just take a look at a couple other questions here from the community. Will the avatars or the player avatars have an overall impact to their decks? Like, as to say, certain avatars have a percentage increase to abilities or cards.
So they will have a kind of a unique kind of mechanical quality to them as well, and that's. Like I'm pretty sure Shadowverse and Hearthstone do that too with their heroes, right? Certain heroes have like a certain amount of health, and so they will have kind of like that, so that that's also part of like but it will tie kind of into the lore as well, like in the story, right? So that it kind of makes sense.
Right. Very good. So another, which is the best Nemot, Derek? Obviously not fish lights. I think that's a loaded question because it happens to also come from the Nemots account. So
right.
I'm going duck ox all the way. So okay, so we're closing in on an hour here. So there's a couple other questions. I mean, for the developer journey, I want to be able to touch on some of this, especially since as we know, Phantasma is not an EVM compatible chain. So I just wanted to ask for any interested developers or people looking into this chain, like, what was your experience with the developer journey? How easy or how hard was it to kind of plug in between the game and your programming stack with the blockchain, and what was your experience there?
Right.
Go ahead, Derek.
No, you go ahead, Jasper, and then I'll go. You go, and then I'll fill in the blanks.
All right. So I'll be completely frank here. We're a very limited team when it comes to blockchain experience. Derek obviously has a lot of experience in Web 2. Most of the developers that we have on board are Solidity developers. So it's been a difficult path, but I feel the more we get into it, the easier it will be. For me, it's really important especially to get the NFTs out. The token itself, it doesn't really matter since we have Rubik. But when it comes to building out the NFTs, I at one point fully want to go Phantasma with it, because then it's decentralized. It's smart NFT knowledge.
Yeah, and then from my side, so. Basically, there's a Unity SDK that Phantasma has that plugs into Unity for developers. And that Phantasma, I believe, is working on like a C# kind of based way to do that, which is really good for developers because obviously like any Unity developer is going to know C#, since that's the native language there. It used to be you could be a JavaScript person too and do it, but they've kind of more gone to C# as of late. But I say as of late, that's probably since like 2018. But like, but the last few years don't really count in time, right?
Right, yeah,
so,
of course, yeah. Definitely. Well, let's see. We'll see if we have any more questions here, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's see. Let's see here. I think that we pretty much got them all. And what's your long term plan? I guess. How are you intending on marketing? And what's your longer term plan post launch to create presence? I guess, or expand outside of the immediate space.
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things that we're really going to kind of push, right, and it benefits everybody to. I don't really see as often a focus on IP specifically in blockchain, and I think that for like interoperability, I can't say that word. You know the word.
Yeah.
Interoperability.
The big one.
There we go. The big one. Yeah. It just doesn't fit together for me. But for that to be a thing, right? The IP is very important because the IP can be used across multiple games, and then if you unlock, if you have like a Nemot from this particular game, then it's going to be something that you can use later. Because obviously, like again, like I think Jasper said earlier, like taste shifts with time, right? And all games, even though the top 3 games, 2 of them, top 3 games as far as like number of active users in the world, 2 of them are like from 2006 and 2007.
Right.
So those are just, they've been around a long time. But I think that like pushing that IP, pushing the story, and then kind of like really strategizing around that, and then making something that people engage with from that aspect is very important,
I totally agree. I think KOLs right now in crypto are totally exhausted. With the bear market, obviously, a lot of them burned people by saying, hey, you need to buy this, you need to buy that. And then it tanked, so their credibility is gone. We really feel that we need to have the game do the marketing, do the showcase, and get it all organically. If you get a lot of players, YouTubers will create videos about it.
Right.
Instruction videos, gameplay videos. Twitch will happen automatically. Obviously, we will push this by, we actually partnered up with Sesame Labs. They're quite new. They offer, for instance, referral codes on chain. They're in development right now. So we really want to go more of the I don't want to say traditional, but just not use any KOLs, any crypto marketing right now, because we feel the game itself will market it. And by adding players, by going into guilds, it's crypto guilds first to get that quick low hanging fruit of players, make the ROI good enough for them to play it. And then slowly videos will come out of it. People will get interested and then slowly move over into the Web 2 space.
Right. So speaking of Web 2, so this is clearly on PC. Is it going to be on Mac? And I think you mentioned that you're going to push for mobile down the road as well.
Yeah. When we initially launch our MVP, it will be Mac and Windows. Then we will develop it for mobile. Android will probably be first, since they're a lot of more lenient with blockchain games, and then iOS will follow up later.
Excellent. And then one more question from the audience, and that was what exchanges are going to be available at launch? So you are also a Polychain based project as well, right?
Yeah. Right now, we have some bigger exchanges waiting, but we do not have the complete funding to go on it. The first exchanges will be the more lower ones, also the ones that we need for on-ramper. So it will be Bitrue, Bitmore, Lbank, and those are the three that we're going to launch on.
Okay, sounds good. All right, gentlemen. Well, look, I just wanted to say I'm so appreciative of you coming on for the inaugural chat with Phantasma.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for sticking around through the technical boo-boos. I'm sure they won't be the last, but I appreciate everybody hanging tight. Big thanks to the soldiers in the audience. Shout out to all the family and the crew out there. And yeah, we're really looking forward to the Nemots launching. Come by, stop by anytime. Always down for a chat. And good luck to you and all your future endeavors. Yeah.
Also, just a quick plug-in on a website down at the bottom. You can register for alpha testing, which is going to be announced soon, and we'll pick a few out of them.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely on that list, and it said reasons why you should be an alpha tester, and I put because Duck Ox is my friend, and so I hope that's good enough to get through. he sent me.
Awesome.
But anyways, gents, yeah, great time. Thanks, soldiers, for tuning in. We're going to do more of these in the future. We're going to get a lot more interviews with our current developers. We're going to have some roundtables within the space, just discussing like what we can do as an industry to push this forward, and just do some other really fun things. So we look forward to all of you joining us in the future. My big thanks again to the team of the Nemots, and this is Dr. Funk signing off. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
I've had to figure out how to end the stream actually now. Maybe okay. Now